Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 45, is that correct? Yes. Canto 7, Chapter 8, Text 45. The Lord slays the king of the demons. Can you hear at the back? Maharaj, can you hear? It's good, huh? Okay. Kindly repeat. Shri Siddha Uchuhu Yaha Naha Gatim Yoga Siddham Asaduhu Aharshit Yoga Tapaha Balena Nana Darpam Tam Nakaihi Vidadara Tasmai Tubhyam Panataha Smaha Nrishangha Shri Siddha Uchuhu Yo no Gating Yoga Siddhama Sadhur Aharshi Yoga Tapobalena Nanada Pangtang Nakavidadara Tasmai Tubhyang Prannatasmo Nrishangha Shri Siddha Uchu Yo no Gating Yoga Siddhanga Sadhur Aharshi Yoga Tapo Balena Nanada Pangtang Nakavidadaro Tasmai Tubhyang Pranatak Smo Nrishangha Shri Siddha Uchu Yo no Gating Yoga Siddhanga Sadhur Aharshi Yoga Tapo Balena Nanada Pangtang Nakavidadara Tasmai Tubhyang Panatak Smo Nrishangha Naha, our. Gatim, perfection. Yoga Siddham, achieved by mystic yoga. Asaduhu, most uncivilized and dishonest. Aharshit, stole away. Yoga of mysticism. Tapaha and austerities. Balena, by the power. Nanadarpam, proud due to wealth. Opulence and strength. Tum, him. Nakaihi, by the nails. Vidadara, pierced. Tasmai, unto him. Tubhyam, unto you. Pranataha, bowed down. Smaha, we are. Nrsimha. O Lord Nrsimhadev. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai. Continuing the prayers of the demigods, trying to appease the angry Lord Nrsimhadev. Sometimes when somebody gets angry with us, we try to appease them. We try to, please forgive me, please calm down, whatever it is, somehow or another. They're trying to calm him down. Okay, so the Siddhalokas, residents of Siddhaloka, now the inhabitants of Siddhaloka prayed, O Lord Nrsimhadev, because we belong to Siddhaloka, we automatically achieve perfection in all 8 kinds of mystic power. Yet, Hiranyakashipu was so dishonest that by the strength of his power and austerity, he took away our powers. Thus he became very proud of his mystic strength. Now, because this rogue has been killed by your nails, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. On earth, there are many yogis who can exhibit some feeble mystic power by manufacturing pieces of gold like magic. But the inhabitants of the planet Siddhaloka are actually extremely powerful in mysticism. They can fly from one planet to another without aeroplanes. This is called Lagima City. Does anyone have any paper tissues, perchance, that I won't give them back. I can give the clean ones back, if there are any. Thank you. Thank you, Nitai. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Excuse me. They can actually become very light and fly in the sky. By a severe type of austerity, however, Hiranyakashipu excelled all the inhabitants of Siddhaloka and created disturbances for them. The residents of Siddhaloka were also beaten by the powers of Hiranyakashipu. Now that Hiranyakashipu had been killed by the Lord, the inhabitants of Siddhaloka also felt relieved. End of purport. Excuse me. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for your association, and pray for your mercy that I may be able to render us this fortunate service to our beloved Srila Prabhupada, to speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is so mercifully presented to the world, showered upon the world to counteract the ill effects of the, similar in the sense of the innumerable, very small, as Prabhupada says here, feeble attempts, but the Hiranyakashipu mentality which pervades this Kali Yuga. The other day on Srila Prabhupada's Tirabhav, I briefly mentioned the word obeisance. You generally don't see the word obeisances. In fact, you won't find it in the Google search, generally speaking, not in the dictionary side. Obeisances, Prabhupada would use the word obeisances. The word is mentioned here. Plural, We offer obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the desires of everyone just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for all the fallen conditioned souls. And I was reflecting on this word. It's a play on words, as we say in English. Can you hear at the back, Maharaj? Okay. If you break the word down into, not necessarily grammatically speaking, but in terms of the word itself, obey, the first word is obey. Sans, in French, sans, without, right? Nitai? Obey without cease. Obeisance cease. This is the, you could say, the more applicable aspect of this word being used here by the residents of Siddhaloka. The meaning of obey without cease or ceasing is the basic principle of spiritual life, which is the answer. Here the residents of Siddhaloka are feeling great relief. They had been diminished by the powers of Hiranyakashipu. Just as we in this Kali Yuga, particularly, all the good qualities of a human being are practically destroyed in this age of Kali, this very overwhelming age. The Siddhas are, they're great devotees. Siddhaloka is a very elevated planet within the universe. It's said to be a satellite of Brahmaloka, the planet of Lord Brahma. They're very powerful, not just, generally speaking, in terms of achievement through the practice of the eightfold yogic mystical path, and thus they've achieved various siddhis, particularly or specifically the siddhi of being able to fly. It's a very, you could say, in one sense, it's a very desirable siddhi. I mean, personally speaking, I always dreamt as a child, and still do sometimes, of this siddhi of flying in the sky. Very materially enjoyable, but it's material. All these siddhis, etc., cannot protect us from the real fear. They couldn't even protect them from the fear of Hiranyakashipu, immortal, powerful that he may be, or to speak of the powers of providence, the modes of nature, time, mityu, death. There is no protection, no matter how powerful we are, even if we are a resident of Siddhaloka. Of course, one of the residents, and maybe others too, of Siddhaloka, like Narada Muni, he's a resident of Siddhaloka. Pure devotees, they're not affected. One of the differences here, and what we heard the other day from Guru Prasad Maharaj, extensively the difference between Sakama and Nishkama Bhaktas, but we may be mixed. But one of the differences between one who's actually taken shelter, Abhaichara and Avinda, one who's taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, not disturbed by any mystical shows. You know, Dhruva Maharaj, he with the Yakshas really put on a pretty good mystical show to him, better than any magic show that anyone else can put on. Pretty scary. I don't know if you ever saw midnight movies. Pretty scary. Yeah, different things in this world really scare us because we identify with them. Pure devotee identifies with Krishna. He sees everything going on under Krishna's control, so there's no real need to fear. Even in this particular, when coming to that next chapter, how Prabhupada describes how Prahlad Maharaj, just like the little cub, I was hearing the lecture this morning, Prabhupada was talking about the little lion cub, how the mouth of the lion is very fearful, isn't it? If you see a mouth, even a dog, if you get a close-up of a dog, if you didn't know what it was, pretty scary. Sharks, pretty scary looking, a sharp teeth, and death, represent death. So Nrsinga's mouth, the teeth and the nails, knuckles, represent death. But for the little lion cub, he goes right up to the mouth, feeling very, very happy. Feels completely satisfied, whereas everyone else runs for their life when they see that mouth. That's Hiranyakashipu. He was pretty fearless. He was the epitome of, you can say, material ego. And nothing was going to stop him. He didn't believe this was, what this was, is some strange creature. This is not God. Whatever. Representing, maybe God sent him. But, generally people are scared stiff of the great. But like the ocean, I don't suppose anyone here has ever found themselves alone in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. You can imagine what it's like. He lives next door to it. Thousands of miles of ocean all around and nobody. Waves 10, 20, 30 feet high. Pretty scary. But for the fish, he's very happy. Prabhupada says because the fish has taken shelter of the ocean. Therefore all the fears, whatever they may be, because there are other dangers, but that one is not there for the fish. In this verse, there's some interest. I was thinking in this terms that that the siddhas are saying here that Hiranyakashipu, by the strength of his austerities, has taken away, what does it say here? By the strength of his power, he's taken away our powers. We have a similar kind of experience that material energy is really strong, more powerful than we are. And easily, whatever little strength we may think we have can easily be taken away, even in the so-called practice of devotional service. You have to be careful we don't become a little bit take it for granted type of thing, a little proud. Now, in this verse, there are some interesting words. Now, as long as Hiranyakashipu was alive, even the siddhas were feeling a loss of power, or they were feeling belittled, humiliated, defeated, beaten. Now the word beaten, interesting word, beaten. Either beaten or you're being literally beaten. It's the same thing. You're being put down. You feel put down. They felt, nobodies in the presence of Hiranyakashipu. We're nobody in the presence of Maya. But when we take shelter of Lord Nrsingadev, like Prahlad, he wasn't afraid at all of Hiranyakashipu. He gave him the sauce. He called him, all kinds of things. You demonic, you're a fool. Who do you think you are? He was straight with his father. He wasn't afraid. He was respectfully straight. He wasn't afraid. He knew Krishna was protecting him. Devotee is not afraid of anything in this world. We may not be on that level. We should take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. You can also become fearless. Now, in this verse, what is it that takes away or obstructs, we could say? Now, here we see some words in here. I'll try to mention. Asadu. The word asadu is there. And there, in the word for word, it says dishonest. Asadu. One who is dishonest. Dishonest. The word dishonest is a very significant word, and if we're dishonest, we will also lose our spiritual strength, if we think we have any. Honesty, and we could another meaning of dishonest is duplicitous, pretentious, two-faced. If we take the word duplicitous, The opposite word is simplicity. Duplicity, simplicity. They come from duplex and simplex. Two ancient Latin words, meaning two-faced and one-faced. If we're two-faced, same thing with our obeisances. We're paying obeisances, but we're not really paying obeisances. It's a ritual. It's a ritual. It's okay. Certainly is, but we want to make it spiritual, not ritual. The word spiritual contains the word ritual. There's only 3 letters different, S-P-I. S-P-I, I kind of meditate on it. It stands for Srila Prabhupada's instructions, which make the ritual spiritual. Obedience, obeisances, make the ritual spiritual. That becomes what's called sincere. Simplicity is sincere. Straightforwardness, honesty, open, not hiding, not saying one thing and intending another. In our devotional service, we have to set our goal, know what our objective is. Everything should be directed for that purpose. Sometimes we get caught with so many other goals, mystic powers, name and fame, so many anarthas, blocking our actual relief. We may think that gives us relief, but how long it lasts. A moment. Taking shelter. And here, actually, in the word for word is interesting. The word darpam is also mentioned. But in the translation, the word for word goes into a more extensive, say, meaning of darpam. It just means pride, being proud. But proud, Prabhupada says, proud due to wealth, opulence, and strength, which is the goal for most people, isn't it? They want to get wealth. Some people are honest about it. The Chinese people, or at least they're honest about it. They openly declare their goal of life is money. Kind of an honesty. It's actually not really, it's actually a sadhu. Because as long as we're trying to see things separately from Krishna, we're a sadhu. We see things in relationship to ourselves. And in one sense, enjoy or like or dislike, duality comes in. It's dishonest. As long as we're experiencing duality, we're still affected by this dishonesty. Because we're still identifying ourselves with this material body as the self, or the mind. I'm talking for myself. So due to wealth, opulence is also wealth. It can also mean qualities which we may possess. Strength, avarice, and strength is one of them, or beauty. One may have great. Hiranyakashipu had all these things. The material world also appears to have all these things, and people within it, to a certain extent, reflect some of them for some time. And we get enamored by it. We get enamored, and thus we become entangled. And we become fearful. If we don't get what we want, another aspect of this is that one's objectives are thwarted. In the material world, they're always thwarted. We're setting the wrong goal. They're atmasanyasvasatsvapi. They're fallible. We take shelter of something and it's only temporary. It's gone. Someone else takes it away. We get taken away. We lose it. And strength. What strength do we have? Very little. Even Hiranyakashipu was so proud of his wealth, opulence, strength, and all of his other qualities. His knowledge also, extremely knowledgeable. Very knowledgeable. It said here, he even usurped or surpassed Narada Muni. He was very knowledgeable. He knew the Vedas pretty well. The materialists, sometimes they're pretty knowledgeable. Not really, but I mean, relative to me anyway, materially speaking. But they're proud of their knowledge. Devotee is not proud of his knowledge. You may have a PhD. We have to be careful. We don't get proud of it. Or we may have some, good karma. For some reason we're good at something or another. Managing, speaking, whatever it is. Whatever it is we've got, even if it's developed by our good activities in this lifetime, we still got to be careful. Pride, damba can come in any time in our devotional service. It's a major cause of us losing our spiritual tejas, our spiritual purity, our spiritual power. Major cause. And that means we'll lose our enthusiasm. We'll lose our desire. Now I'm going to read something, if you excuse me. I don't usually do this. It's a kind of occasionally I do. I would like to read something from Srila Prabhupada. Well, first I'm going to read the translation. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasingaya Namaste Tejase Avir Avir Bhava Vajranaka Vajradangsha Karmashayan Vindaya Rindaya Tamo Grasa Grasa Om Swaha. Many of you know that verse. It's a famous obeisance offered by Prahlad in the residence of Harivarsh to Lord Nrsingadev. And the translation of this is not in the 7th canto, it's in the 5th canto, chapter 18, text 8. The translation: I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsingadev, the source of all power. O Lord, who possess nails and teeth, just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. It kind of sums up that subject matter in many ways. Taking, by the mercy of Lord Nrsingadev, we become fearless. Source of all power. Whatever we've got, it comes from him. So the credit goes to Lord Nrsingadev. We're proud that he is, the source of power, that we're able to connect with him and be a receptacle or an instrument for his power to some degree. Now, what I'd like to read now is from the from Srila Prabhupada. This is a morning walk on March the 9th, 1974. Maybe Sruti Prabhu, were you there? 1974? Anyone there? 1974 in Mayapur, March the 9th. Early days for devotees going to Mayapur. Well, Prabhupada says, everyone is in a bona fide disciplic succession, provided he keeps the tradition. Keeps that tradition. Apani achari Prabhu jivi shikaila. One must behave that I belong to this disciplic succession. I must keep myself fit for the post. Then it is all right. If he deviates, then he deviates the disciplic succession. Hare Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says frankly that this is disciplic succession. Amara Agyaya. Just carry out my order. Then you are in disciplic succession. If you do not keep yourself in the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then simply by becoming disciple, you are not in the disciplic succession. Just becoming disciple, Prabhupada, you're not in the disciplic succession. If we want protection in the disciplic succession from the effects of everything else around us, this is disciplic succession. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said this clearly, Amara Agyayo Guru Hona Tara Desh. Wherever you live, you become a spiritual master. How? Yare Deka Tare Kaha Krishna Upadesh. Is that someone's mobile? Is it a mobile or what is it? Pardon? Can you turn it off, please? Please turn your mobiles off, if you have them. Whomever you meet, you only speak what Krishna has instructed. Then you are disciplic succession. It doesn't matter what you are and where you are. It doesn't matter. This is disciplic succession. And if you think, now I am initiated, I am now liberated, I have no other business, you are not in disciplic succession. You must preach. That is disciplic succession. This is the shelter. The only shelter from the effects of this age of Kali is the disciplic succession. Even the holy name may not give shelter if it's not delivered through the parampara, through the disciplic succession. It's the pure devotees of the Lord who give us that shelter. They are the dust at the lotus feet of the Lord, who come in this world to shower that mercy on everyone. It's like radiation. If we get touched by that radiation, we're permanently affected. We have to take shelter of the dust of their lotus feet. The dust of their lotus feet are the instructions they give. And if we abide by those instructions, carefully applying them, obeisances, in our life, then we can be protected. We are no doubt, at least I am, still haunted by various anarthas from the past, and still tendency to offend the Vaishnavas, and offend the name, and offend the Dham, and offend devotional service, and everything else you can think of, and ordinary living entities. I don't know how many ants I've killed since I've been in Vrindavan. It's embarrassing. It's to help to bring us to that point of repentant heart. Repentant heart is a sincere heart, realizing we have no other shelter. We cannot fight, like nobody could fight against, in the universe, no one could fight against Nrsingadev, or even Hiranyakashipu, rather. We can't fight against the material energy. The material energy for a devotee seems very strong, overwhelming. And we can't fight against it, even our minds. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj explains. When we're chanting, for instance, the mind is going haywire sometimes. We can't fight against it. The whole idea is we take shelter of Krishna. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj says one who thinks that they can overcome the illusion of inattention single-handedly, said it's impossible. It is impossible for the jiva to single-handedly overcome the illusion of inattention. It is only possible by the mercy of the Lord. Therefore one should fervently pray for the Lord's mercy to overcome this inattention. It's not possible for the jiva to independently overcome that. We can try, but in the ultimate picture, it depends on Krishna's mercy. Maya is under his control. We have to pray for his mercy, sincerely. Sincere is also a Latin word, referring to the marble, unblemished marble, pure marble. Marble does not have any, oftentimes marble has some blemish, some mark, some defect. Anyabilasata shunyam jnana kamajit. Devotional service which is not tinged by any other motive. Basically means any other motive. The only motive of devotional service is Krishna Nishilam, Anukulyena Krishna, to please Krishna. That which is pleasing for Krishna. We only learn that from the pure devotee, and that's the only place that, otherwise if we're harboring motives, other motives, we'll still be experiencing this fear. We'll be worried about our image, worried about what people think, feel uncomfortable when there's somebody who's got more than me, whatever it may be. Pride, Damba is still affecting us. There's sincere prayer, there's sincerely taking shelter, obeisances of the pure devotee of the Lord. I'm going to read a purport. I don't know how much time. I've got a wonderful, there's one book called Kalena Kalpatru. It's a series of songs by Bhakti-Vinod Thakur. If you ever get the chance, please read this. I know we first got to read Prabhupada's books. This is again where we get our clarification, where we get our strength from is from Srila Prabhupada. And that strength comes from associating with Prabhupada. And specifically, we can associate with him by reading his books with sincerity, not mechanically. That's also okay, in one sense. But if we really want to get the shelter and the direction to focus on the goal, we should read very attentively, as much as we can, Srila Prabhupada's books, regularly every day. Not just the class where we hear one verse and somebody espousing on the meaning or whatever they do. But to hear attentively every day Prabhupada's books. This is the association of Srila Prabhupada. It's But still, other things, the songs are there, other literature is explaining. It's not we can't read anything else, but first and foremost we read Prabhupada's books. So this is from Prabhupada's book. This is Prabhupada verse and purport. This is a very wonderful verse by Queen Kunti. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached. This is 1:826, and some of you are very familiar with this verse, Janmaishvaya Shuta Shribir. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. It doesn't just mean, she's Prabhu, I'm really tired. I didn't get enough sleep last night. I think I'm qualified. I think I'm qualified for pure devotion. I'm exhausted. That may be so if you've really given your heart and soul in your devotional service, but it means a little bit more than that. It means we have, and not just gross, but subtle. We have no more subtle desires to try to, be duplicitous in this world, engage in devotional service with the intention of getting some name, fame, prestige, or whatever it may, some pratishtha of some kind, or some sense gratification, or whatever it may be. Some comfort zone in the name of being a devotee. Just wearing tilak and this and that doesn't make one a devotee. We've got to have the mood of a devotee. Imbibe that mood from Prabhupada, that selflessness, that purity. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. You can approach, but not with sincere feeling. There'll be another intention inside the heart. Oh, I want this, I want that. Save me from this, save me from that. Like the demigods, it's okay. In the neophyte stage, the kanistha mood is like that. But if we don't go back to Godhead being a kanistha, you stay in this world until we get over that stage. Purport. Being materially advanced means taking birth in an aristocratic family and possessing great wealth and education and attractive personal beauty. All materialistic men are mad after possessing all these material opulences, and this is known as advancement of material civilization. But the result is that by possessing all these material assets, one becomes artificially puffed up, intoxicated by such temporary possessions. Consequently, such materially puffed up persons are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord by addressing him feelingly, "Oh Govinda, oh Krishna." It is said in the Shastras that by once uttering the holy name of the Lord, the sinner gets rid of a quantity of sins that he is unable to commit. Such is the power of uttering the holy name of the Lord. There is not the least exaggeration in this statement. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency. But there is a quality to such utterances also. It depends on the quality of feeling. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but he is incapable of uttering the name in quality. Therefore, the four principles of material advancement, namely high parentage, good wealth, high education, and attractive beauty, are, so to speak, disqualifications for progress on the path of spiritual advancement. The material covering of the pure spirit soul is an external feature as much as fever is an external feature of the unhealthy body. The general process is to decrease the degree of the fever and not aggravate it by maltreatment. Sometimes it is seen that spiritually advanced persons become materially impoverished. This is no discouragement. On the other hand, such impoverishment is a good sign, as much as the falling of temperature is a good sign. The principle of life should be to decrease the degree of material intoxication, gross and subtle, which leads one to be more and more illusioned about the aim of life. Grossly illusioned persons are quite unfit for entrance into the kingdom of God. Hare Krishna. Now another word mentioned in this verse is tapaha. And we all know what tapaha means. Austerity. Austerity, Prabhupada, sometimes we kind of impose our own idea of what it means. And sometimes it may be acceptable, it may be authorized, we should check it, whether it's authorized by the spiritual master. But the actual meaning of tapasya is to actually follow the instructions of the spiritual master sincerely. Not to make our own invention of that. And particularly, as we heard just now, to preach the message of Krishna consciousness, to give it to others, to practice and to preach. We don't have to become. Prabhupada was not such a one. Shruti Kirti Prabhu can tell us more. He wasn't one for extreme austerities from the materialistic perspective. The real austerity is to give up this false ego of expecting some respect, of giving all honor to one's spiritual master and Krishna, and having complete faith in the holy name, realizing I have no other shelter, no other process in this age of Kali can protect me other than taking, according to the direction of my spiritual master, shelter of the holy name, chanting the holy name under his shelter. Otherwise the holy name will not reciprocate, or will reciprocate in a different way. You'll get material returns, you may even get liberation, but one will not get love of God. The ultimate goal will not be achieved, and thus one will not become fearless. One will not get actual relief. The actual relief is when we give up our endeavor, you could say. Even Prabhupada said, and one, as we were hearing the other day, Prabhupada was saying that he said, actually, if real devotional service, he said, means that we accept what the spiritual master asks us to do. We don't say, I want to do this, I want to do that, this is this. We may do that in the beginning. But he said that's actually sense gratification. It's mixed devotional service at best. Pure devotional service means whatever you want me to do. That is pure devotional service. Following that sincerely without any expectation of return. Anashrita kama palam karyam karma karotiya sasanyasi chiyogicha niriragnina chatriyaha. Not expecting anything in return. It's pure devotion. That is austerity. Oh, I'm just going to... The tapasya required, Prabhupada said, here's regarding reading books. To read Krishna's instruction, Prabhupada said, that tapasya required. To read Krishna's instruction, Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, try to understand Krishna. That's tapasya, to read Prabhupada's books. Sometimes we don't want to. We'd rather read something else. And try to understand. Because that tapasya, if you take little painful, but we avoid it. We think it is painful. Who is going to read books? We are meant for selling books. This is another aspect of it. Prabhupada made this quite clear many times, This is not an export movement. He said one time, this movement is not just an export movement. We've got to import. We've got to hear it. We've got to take it in. Not just give it out. And when somebody asks us, what are these books about? And, I don't know. They're for you, not for me. Read it and find out. I got no idea. Never read it. But it's good. As long as you give me some money, it's good anyway. Take the book, okay? Who is going to read books? We are meant for selling books, not for reading books, we say. This is not good. We should read also. That is tapasya. Sadhaya, that is tapasya. Don't think that simply our books are meant for selling. No, it is meant for reading also. If we read regularly, at least 2 hours, 3 hours, and Prabhupada means daily, not yearly, that is tapasya. Srimad Bhagavatam lecture in Vrindavan. What's the date today? Not quite today. October 23rd, 1976. Prabhupada spoke that here in Vrindavan. Bhagavatam. Now, I'm just going to finish off. There's a lot more to say. But this is something which came from Kalyana Kalpatru by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Wonderful series of songs. This is from various instructions he gives, directions in devotional service. I'll just read the English. Is austerity and penance is defined. Okay. He says, because Hiranyakashipu did a pretty heavy austerities. The Siddhas did a pretty heavy austerities to get what they got. But that doesn't give you pure devotional service. We want pure devotional service, if that's our goal. There is no austerity to be performed to get it. Be careful, my dear mind, that you don't become bewildered by mechanically following ritualistic vows. With an aim to please Radha Krishna and make them favorably disposed to you, you accept various types of austere vows. You consider that this will be conducive to your execution of devotional service. Devotional service is actually a very simple and easily understood truth, for it is the soul's natural, inborn tendency. Your desire is to enrich that devotion which is already existing in your heart. But you should be careful to consider that by undertaking unnecessarily difficult vows and austerities, you might destroy the simplicity of the natural bhakti process. It can be destroyed. You get pride comes in. Prabhu, how many rounds did you chant yesterday? I managed 25. Never mind, Prabhu. Keep trying. I did 64, but I'm not going to tell you about it because I'm humble. I haven't eaten anything for the last 3 days. I must be becoming a pure devotee around here, not like you sense gratifiers. Devotional service is actually a very simple and easily understood truth, for it is the soul's natural inborn. Simplicity is the natural, simplicity of the natural bhakti process. The results that you get from hard labor on Krishna's behalf are extraordinary and should never be considered to be commonplace. However, if such service turns into an unnecessarily difficult austerity, and in this case, something which is not compatible to our level or adhikar in devotional service, for instance, or our nature sometimes, or that which is not actually pleasing to one's spiritual master, which is the key one. However, if such service turns into unnecessarily difficult austerity, it becomes an obstacle to devotion. You will only gain the results of the austerity and nothing more. But just try to understand this, my dear brother. If one is worshipping Hari, then there is no need for the labor of penances and austerities. If devotional service, because the purpose of that is to worship Lord Hari. The ultimate purpose of all austerities, all penances, of knowledge, of everything, is to worship the Lord. So if one is actually engaged by the pure devotee in doing that, you've achieved the purpose of all these other activities. There's no need to make a separate endeavor. If it's authorized to improve your service to the spiritual master, fine. If devotional service does not manifest, and that should be in the characteristics of devotional service, not just doing things, but the feeling, the quality we have in our relationships, our respect for each other, our appreciation for devotional service, our humility, our dependency, developing the qualities of a devotee should be developing. Otherwise, something's not quite right. Maybe you've heard the 26 qualities of a devotee. One time, Srila Prabhupada in New York, he asked the devotees, Prabhupada said to the devotees, so, what are the 26 qualities of devotional service? Well, nobody could answer. Of a devotee, not devotional service. What are the 26 qualities of a devotee? Nobody could answer. Silence. Early days, 66. Paul, Steve, Bruce, Prabhupada was using their material, the pre-initiation names. Nobody could answer. Then one very intelligent devotee spoke and said, Swamiji, it's in the book. It's in the book. Very clever. Prabhupada said, then you better read the book. You've got to know what they are. You've got to know by the symptoms, not just by some, to see by the symptoms, not the dress, but the actual coming from within. If devotional service does not manifest, then the insignificant result of that austerity will never be valued by true Vaishnava at any time. From all this, just try to understand the deep inner significance of the principles of Vaishnava behavior. That is, according to differences in the receptivity of people, there are definite differences in their capacity for executing devotional service. Bhaktivinoda's humble submission is that you should just become a sahagrahi and accept the essence of complete surrender to Krishna. One who takes the essence, makes that its life and soul. thus becoming freed from and transcendental to all types of scriptural rules and regulations. We don't imitate that, but we take the essence at our stage of the instructions of the spiritual master as our life and soul. And we apply that in our lives and try to be sincere. So that's just a little snippet. The next one is absolutely amazing, but I'm not going to read it. It's we go on and on and on. They're just incredible instructions for devotees on the path of devotional service to help us to purify our devotional practices and become free, relieved, without making a separate endeavor from all the distress of this material world and all the fears of this world, and not just relieved, but protected from the pitfalls, the obstacles on the path of devotional service. There are many. They are there for the sake of helping us to remember that we have only one shelter, to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
You have to call loudly for getting shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Loudly chant the holy names. Hare Krishna. Loud chanting the holy name will clear out all of these unwanted and things, inertia, unwanted, all kinds of anarthas. Everything can be cleared out by the loud and sincere chanting of the holy name. Fulfills all purposes. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna.